Hello everybody and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some exotic weapons that I think could use a small update or tweak in order to bring these exotics a little more in line with the sandbox. But before we get started, I'd like to clarify a few things. As a disclaimer, this particular list of exotics came about from my own experience playing Destiny 2. All of the exotics on this list were chosen for one or all of the following reasons. Either A, I don't see it in the wild very often, B, I think this exotic encroaches on another exotic's niche, or C, I think there's just a small update that this exotic could use to make it a little more viable in content. And as a side note, that is not to say that any of these exotics are bad exotics, because I really don't think there's such a thing as a bad exotic. Every single exotic in Destiny 2 has its use cases and its niches, and players all around the world are going to figure out how to make them work with their builds. The goal is not to overhaul these exotics entirely, but rather to add or tweak these exotics in ways that either better define their own niche, or give them a slight lethality bump to bring them in line with what other exotics can do. And just as a reminder guys, I am not a game dev in the slightest. I will not pretend like these are 100% balanced in the sandbox. But that being said, I did my best to balance them in both PvP and PvE when I updated and tuned these exotics. And as always guys, all of these changes are just my opinion. If there's an exotic you love on this list, it does not mean that it's bad in any stretch of the imagination. These are just changes that I would like to propose in order to better carve out this exotic's niche. Also, before we got started, I wanted to shout out a couple members of my clan that helped me vet these ideas and make sure they weren't too busted. So a big shout out to my clanmates Seawalker, Bat, Pearl, and Drew. These guys were super key in helping me formulate these ideas and making sure they weren't too overpowered, so big thanks to them when I was putting together this video. With those ground rules out of the way, let's jump into our first exotic. Kicking off our list today, we have the Sweet Business, which is a kinetic auto rifle. Sweet Business comes with the intrinsic perk Payday, larger magazine, increased accuracy when firing from the hip, picking up special or heavy ammo immediately reloads this weapon. Sweet Business also comes with the perk Business Time, sustained fire boosts range and rate of fire. And for a catalyst, Sweet Business comes with the perk Serious Business. When this weapon is fully spun up, the flinch from incoming damage is greatly reduced. As a side note, it doesn't say this anywhere in the perks, but Sweet Business does have explosive rounds that do trigger occasionally once the weapon is spun up. Sweet Business is an incredibly fun and unique auto rifle that has really stood the test of time, as it is one of the very first, if not the first, Destiny 2 exotics to be released. It's had a ton of changes, additions, and adjustments over the years, but to my knowledge, these changes have never pushed Sweet Business into anywhere close to being a meta pick in PvE. The issues I have with Sweet Business are twofold. Firstly, the reload speed on Sweet Business is absolutely abysmal, which is why one of its most popular exotic pairings is Actium Warrig. But unfortunately, that doesn't leave much room for hunters and warlocks to really take advantage of Sweet Business. My other issue with Sweet Business is that its single target damage is really lacking. This weapon is begging you to lay on the trigger and mow through enemies and high health targets. So with those issues in mind, I am first going to update the Payday perk on Sweet Business to read larger magazine, increased accuracy when firing from the hip, picking up special or heavy ammo immediately reloads and overflows this weapon's mag. I decided that the overflow perk would be a wonderful addition to Sweet Business and allow for hunters and warlocks to get more bang out of their buck when using Sweet Business above Actium Warrig Titans. Now, will Actium still be the de facto exotic pairing for Sweet Business? Absolutely. But this change should hopefully round the weapon out for the other classes. And then to solve the second issue I have with Sweet Business, I am updating the Business Time perk to read sustained fire boosts range and rate of fire. Sustained damage on a target increases damage over time. A perk akin to target lock for Sweet Business would be an amazing way to keep the auto rifle balanced in PvP, while also helping the weapon pump out a little more damage on high health targets in PvE. I know target lock works on mag percentages, so maybe Sweet Business could have some custom tuning, but I think these changes to Payday and Business Time would be amazing ways to update Sweet Business to fit the current sandbox. Moving on, we have another Destiny 2 vanilla exotic in the Sturm kinetic hand cannon. Sturm comes with the intrinsic perk Accomplice, which reads, kills with this weapon fill the magazine of the equipped energy weapon from reserves. The weapon also comes with the perk Storm and Stress, which reads, kills with Drang, reload this weapon and overflow a bonus damage round into the magazine. And then its catalyst just adds range and handling, which to its credit is amazing in PvP. But outside of that, Sturm really doesn't do much in the PvE scene. Double primary Primaries really haven't been a choice for some time, and Sturm is just a product of the time it was made in. And I'll be honest, I think this is one of the most forgotten about exotics, as I really cannot remember the last time that Sturm has been updated. Which is a shame, because I really think Sturm has a really cool play loop. One of my issues with Sturm is its reliance on the Drang sidearm in order to perform, but Drang is such a key component in Sturm's identity that I really can't remove it outright. That said, I've got two different changes that I would love to implement in order to help solve this issue. Firstly, I'm updating the Storm and Stress perk to read, kills with energy weapons reload this weapon and overflow a bonus damage round into the magazine. Drang kills grant more than one round per kill. This rounds out Sturm so much and allows it to be used on way more builds than just a build with Drang. That being said, I wanted to respect the history that Drang and Sturm have together, and so it seems only natural that Drang kills should grant one more round per kill. The second way I would update the issue I have with Sturm is to update the Drang sidearm with new perks. I think this weapon could absolutely benefit from a perk refresh, as we haven't had one on Drang in quite some time. Perks like Heal Clip, Harmony, Discord, and Onslaught would be fantastic ways to make Drang stand out on its own. Because the truth of the matter is, if you want people to use Sturm, you have to make Drang worth using in PvE. I think those two changes combined would push Sturm into a much better spot in the sandbox. Now that we're done talking about Sturm and Drang, let's talk about another exotic that has a legendary weapon pairing. Mida Multi-Tool is a kinetic scout rifle, and has been a staple scout rifle exotic since Destiny 1. This exotic comes with the perk Mida Multi-Tool. This weapon boosts move speed. It also comes with the perk Mida Radar. Radar stays active while aiming down sights. And for a catalyst, Mida Multi-Tool comes with the No Distractions perk. This weapon is absolutely geared towards PvP usage, but I don't think it necessarily has to stay that way. Personally, I really think that the Mida Multi-Tool could use some perk updates, as the perks seem a bit dated for the weapon. For the following changes, I've really decided to lean into Mida Multi-Tool's boosted movement speed, as that seems to be this exotic scout rifle's niche. So I changed Mida Multi-Tool's new intrinsic perk to read, Final blows with this weapon grant stacks of bonus damage and move speed. Kills made while moving grant bonus stacks based on bonus movement speed. I know that sounds like a bit of an odd change, but please let me explain myself. In the simplest terms, you can think of the Multi-Tool's new intrinsic perk as a cross between Perpetual Motion and High Ground. Kills will grant you bonus damage and move speed, and kills made while moving grant bonus stacks based on bonus movement speed. I'm thinking this perk can stack up to 6 times, with kills granting you a single stack, and kills made while moving with bonus movement speed granting you 2 stacks. But Briggs, what do you mean when you say bonus movement speed? Well, to name a few, Dune Marchers, Stompies, and Transversive Steps all increase sprint speed, and therefore I think should intrinsically link with the Mida Multi-Tool. I think that when you're amplified and moving a bit quicker, that should also count for bonus movement speed to give you additional stacks. And just in case you thought I was removing this weapon's intrinsic movement speed buff, I actually haven't. I just moved it from the Mida Multi-Tool perk to the Mida Radar perk, which now reads, this weapon boosts movement speed and enhanced radar stays active while aiming down sights. So Mida Multi-Tool with those changes should be performing the exact same way it has been. We've just added a little bit of damage and we've really leaned into its movement speed capabilities. And to touch base on Mida Mini-Tool real quick, I think it could also use the Drang treatment and come back with improved perks. Heal Clip, Harmony, Discord, and Onslaught are all perks I would love to see on the Mini-Tool. And in order to incentivize using Mini-Tool with Mida Multi-Tool, what if the Mini-Tool also contributed to the Multi-Tool's damage stacks upon kill? I know that was a ton of changes, but I would love to see Bungie update these exotics in order to bring them more in line with what other weapons can do in the game. Next on our list is the Vigilance Wing, which comes to us as a unique 5-round burst pulse rifle in the kinetic slot. Vigilance Wing comes with the intrinsic perk, Harsh Truths. This weapon fires a 5-round burst. When a nearby ally is killed, gain health regeneration and increased movement speed. For its column perk, it comes with Last Stand, improved weapon performance and greatly increased recovery when its wielder is the last living member of a fire team. And for a catalyst, Vigilance Wing nowadays comes with the Ensemble perk. All great perks for the PvP gun back in vanilla Destiny 1. But sadly, the Vigilance Wing really hasn't made any waves in PvE, and I would love to round out this pulse rifle a little bit more. And to be honest, I don't think it needs all that much. The only perk I am updating on Vigilance Wing is the Last Stand perk, which now reads, improved weapon performance and greatly increased recovery when its wielder is the last living member of a fire team, or after reviving an ally. While Last Stand is active, combatant kills trigger Harsh Truths. This small addition of wording helps Vigilance Wing out across the board in both PvP and PvE. Its theming of playing around the life and death of your teammates still stands, and the wording of Last Stand specifically targeting and the wording of Last Stand specifically targeting combatant kills, triggering harsh truths, keeps this weapon from being buffed anymore in PvP. And to incentivize reviving your ally in any activity, Last Stand will now proc off of a revive, maybe with a small timer attached. Overall, I think these small changes are a great way to round out the Vigilance Wing in both PvP and PvE. The next exotic we're going to be taking a look at is the Jade Rabbit, which is a kinetic scout rifle that comes with the perk Fate of All Fools. Chain precision shots to gain bonus damage on your next body shot, and return ammo to the mag. Jade Rabbit also comes with the Zen Moment perk in its columns, and its catalyst just boosts its stability. Jade Rabbit is absolutely a PvP powerhouse, and I have no intention of changing that. But when was the last time you ever saw Jade Rabbit used in any single PvE activity? In order to round out the Jade Rabbit for PvE while also keeping it a PvP monster, I'm updating the Fate of All Fools to read: chain precision shots to gain bonus damage on your next body shot and cause a kinetic tremor on kill. Chain body shots to gain bonus damage on your next precision shot and cause a firefly explosion on kill. I know that sounds like a crazy change, but I don't think it's as busted as I'm making it out to be. Jade Rabbit's original perk is already a very conscious decision you need to be making in the heat of combat, whether in PvP or PvE. And in order to proc the kinetic tremors or the firefly explosion, you need to be chaining shots on either the body or the head. This keeps the Jade Rabbit virtually identical in its PvP usage, but skilled PvE players are going to be able to take advantage of this chaining in order to pump out some really powerful fireflies or kinetic tremors. Because if you're only hitting body shots or you're only hitting precision shots, you're not going to be benefiting from the Fate of All Fools perk. Overall, I think this is a great way to round out Jade Rabbit and give it some PvE usage outside of its PvP powerhouse. Up next on our list, we have the Suros Regime, which is a kinetic auto rifle and comes to us with the intrinsic perk Suros Legacy. The bottom half of each magazine deals bonus damage and has a chance to return health on kill. For its column perk, Suros Regime has the choice between spinning up or dual speed. Spinning up reads that holding down the trigger increases rate of fire, and dual speed reads, when aiming down sights, weapon rate of fire slows while weapon damage increases. And for a catalyst, Suros Regime comes with the Suros Ascendance perk, which reads, increased chance for kills to regen health. Suros' theming is it is the king of auto rifles, and it shows this off by being able to fire in all sorts of different fire rates. The increased damage and their chance to return health on kill is just icing on an already really solid auto rifle. That said, outside of a few dedicated players, you really don't see Suros all that often. Also, it's been a long time since this weapon has been updated, so I'd like to take a pass at it, specifically on its catalyst, which now reads, spinning up now has rewind rounds. Dual speed now has subsistence. Increased chance for kills to regen health. Super small change, but honestly Suros Regime doesn't need all that much. I think giving the Suros either rewind rounds or subsistence would really help out this workhorse of an auto rifle. Suros is already so good, it's so versatile, I think it just needs a little bit more in order to push it into what other weapons can do these days. Our next weapon is the Arbalest, which comes to us as a linear fusion rifle in the kinetic slot. Arbalest comes with the intrinsic compounding force. Fires slugs that cause massive damage to combatant shields. Strong against barrier champions. For its column perk, Arbalest comes with the Disruption Break perk, which reads, breaking an enemy's shield with this weapon makes them more vulnerable to kinetic damage for a brief period. And for a catalyst, Arbalest comes with the Genesis perk. As you've probably figured out, or if you've just played the game forever like me, you know Arbalest was built and designed to break shields. And for a while, it was the meta pick for doing that. But the sandbox has changed, shields aren't as prevalent as they once were, and Wish Ender handles anti-barriers way better than Arbalest does, and it doesn't require special ammo. I felt that wasn't really fair, because if you're going to use a special ammo version of Wish Ender, it should do some really good work. With that in mind, I am changing Arbalest's column perk Disruption Break and renaming it Railgun Disruption Break, which now reads, breaking an enemy's shield with this weapon makes them and nearby enemies more vulnerable to kinetic damage and disoriented for a brief period. For those of you who have played the game for a long time, this should sound familiar, as basically we're just combining Disruption Break with Shield Disorient, with the added change that nearby enemies are also going to be vulnerable to kinetic damage for that brief period. It's a simple change, but I think Arbalest has been overshadowed by Wish Ender for far too long, and to me personally, it just doesn't make sense. A primary ammo bow that has infinite ammo should not be doing more to barriers than what a special weapon Arbalest should do. I think this small change in adding area of effect to Arbalest would really help it stand out as a choice against Wish Ender. The next weapon on our list is the Cryosthesia, which is a stasis sidearm and comes with the intrinsic LN2 burst. With an alternate weapon action, you can swap firing mode after a final blow to enable a charged shot. For its column perk, Cryosthesia comes with a perk called Liquid Cooling. Direct hits by a charged shot instantly freeze the target. Indirect hits freeze combatants, and slow opposing guardians. And for its catalyst, Cryosthesia comes with the Cold Efficiency perk, which reads that shattering a frozen target refills this weapon's magazine from reserves. I ran around and tested Cryosthesia for a hot minute for this video, and I had some other changes planned, but in testing, I found that the Cryosthesia was actually really good. I really only have one small change that I want to make to Cryosthesia. There are no new perks to give to this weapon, no changes in its wording. The only change I want to make to Cryosthesia is to turn its special reload into just a charging of the weapon. In a similar manner that Teraba swaps over to Ravenous Beast, I think Cryosthesia should do that animation instead of a full reload in order to take effect. This would help the weapon's play loop massively and make it feel a lot more fluid, which I think is the big holdup on Cryosthesia right now. Other than that, it's a perfectly serviceable exotic. It's just a really small change that I would love to see added to this exotic. And maybe it's a personal preference thing, but personally I would love to see the Cryosthesia receive this change in order to make the weapon feel a lot more smooth. Next on our list is the Forerunner, which comes to us as a special ammo kinetic sidearm. Forerunner comes with the intrinsic perk Full Stop, which reads, oversized sidearm with extended range heavy caliber rounds. Fires full auto with increased rate of fire. Deals increased precision damage to unshielded targets. For its column perk, Forerunner comes with Pace Yourself. Tapping the trigger gives this weapon less recoil and improves accuracy. And for a catalyst, Forerunner comes with The Rock. For several seconds after a final blow, alternate weapon action to consume part of your ammo reserves, converting your next thrown grenade into a fragmentation grenade. When I tested this weapon, I was shocked at how fun Forerunner is. Besides the skill issue of me missing shots while I played, which happens with any weapon I use, not just Forerunner, it performed really well and felt really fun to use. Especially its catalyst, which I forgot does way more damage than I give it credit for. If you haven't tried the catalyst out in a hot minute, please give it a go. It is really fun to clear out groups of enemies with it. The only problem I ran into was when I came up against any kind of shield in any kind of activity. It felt really bad to dump multiple rounds into shielded targets in order to benefit from the increased precision damage that Full Stop gives me. With that in mind, the only change I would make to this sidearm is to add the Under perk to Forerunner. I just think that for a special ammo sidearm, Forerunner needs to be doing a lot more damage to enemy shields in order to let it benefit from the increased precision damage that it does to unshielded targets. I tossed around making a Forerunner anti-barrier, but I thought it might lean a bit too close to what Arbalest is doing. But what do you guys think? Should I have made Forerunner anti-barrier? Let me know in the comments down below. But in the meantime, I definitely think Forerunner would benefit massively from having the Under perk added to it at some point. The last weapon we're going to take a look at in our kinetic slot is the Navigator, which is a strand trace rifle and comes with the intrinsic perk Protective Weave. Firing this weapon at an ally grants woven mail to both the user and the target. For a column perk, Navigator comes with Weft Cutter. Dealing sustained damage severs the target. And for a catalyst, Navigator comes with the perk Gordian Knot. Special reload and then fire to create a grapple tangle at the targeted point. In a similar vein to Cryosthesia, there's just one small change I would like to make to the Navigator. My only problem with support weapons like this where you have to hit your teammates is sometimes they're a bit tougher to hit than you think. Or if you're like me, you have some friends that really have bad internet connection and they jump all over the place when you're trying to shoot them. In order to remedy this, I would love for Bungie to come back and add tracking to the woven mail application. It can be something similar to what support auto rifles do, where hip firing the weapon adds tracking to the allies in front of you. And even if the trace rifle beam looks a bit wonky and weird, I don't think it would be too out of place for a strand trace rifle to be a bit bendy in its beam. Again, super small change to the Navigator, but I would love to see some tracking being added to this support trace rifle in order to make it a little more usable for people who are lagging across my screen. Jumping to our energy slot, the first weapon we're going to take a look at is the Skyburner's Oath, which is a solar scout rifle and comes with the intrinsic perk Slug Rifle. This weapon lobs explosive slugs. When you're aiming down sights, the slugs travel fast and straight. When you're firing from the hip, the explosion is larger and applies Scorch to the target. For its column perk, Skyburner's Oath comes with For the Empire. This weapon is full auto, does extra damage to Cabal, and penetrates Phalanx shields. And Skyburner's Catalyst just adds reload speed. Personally, I've always really liked Skyburner's Oath, but found it hard to use when guns like Polaris Lance exist. That said, I think this weapon has a ton of potential, and I would love to give it a little bit of juice to help it out. So with that in mind, its intrinsic is going to stay the same, but its column perk for the Empire will now read, "This weapon is full auto and penetrates phalanx shields. Weapon kills build Keidel's shield charges. Special reload to consume the charges and summon a phalanx barrier." How amazing would it be if you could summon your own phalanx barrier? I'm thinking it would look similar to a rally barricade, and for those of you who have noticed that I took away the extra damage to Cabal, to combat this I have added to the catalyst of Skyburner's Oath. The new catalyst for Skyburner's Oath now reads, Keidel's Shield. This weapon deals more damage and pierces shields when behind a barrier. So the play loop would be to get kills in order to build up charges. Once you have enough charges, you can summon a phalanx barrier, and shooting from behind the phalanx barrier grants this weapon increased damage and gives it anti-barrier properties. All in all, I think after these changes, Skyburner's Oath feels a lot more exotic than what it is now. I know it's a bit of an out there idea, but I think Skyburner's has so much potential, and a change like this would definitely make the exotic feel more exotic. Next on our list is the Ticuu's Divination, which is a solar bow and comes with the intrinsic perk Sacred Flame. Hip firing this weapon fires multiple tracking projectiles. Targets marked by these projectiles explode upon death or when struck by another Sacred Flame's explosion. In its column, Ticuu's Divination comes with the perk Causality Arrows. Arrows fired while aiming down sights cause Sacred Flames to instantly detonate. Precision hits with perfectly drawn arrows increase the power of this detonation. And for a catalyst, Ticuu's comes with the Causality Quiver perk. Perfectly drawn arrows that detonate Sacred Flames increase arrow damage. Striking targets unaffected by Sacred Flame instead refreshes Causality Arrow's duration. Personally, Ticuu's has got to be one of my favorite exotic weapons in the game. I know it's a bit overshadowed by Hierarchy of Needs, but I think the play loop of Ticuu's Divination is super satisfying to pull off. You get into a rhythm and it's a really fun exotic to use. That said, as much as I love this exotic, even I have to admit it's fallen a bit behind the competition. Especially when legendary bows like Tyranny of Heaven can do what Ticuu's does in a single shot, it makes this exotic feel not worth using. So to fix this, I'm changing a couple of perks on Ticuu's Divination. The first perk I'm changing is the Causality Arrows perk, which now reads, arrows fired while aiming down sights cause Sacred Flames to instantly detonate and scorches nearby targets. Precision hits with perfectly drawn arrows increase the power and scorch application of this detonation. So firstly, super simple change, but I think Ticuu's should absolutely have Scorch built into it. I see no reason why those explosions can't be incandescent type explosions, in a similar vein to what Sunshot can do with its explosions. But I think Tyranny of Heaven still has a small leg up, so in order to further boost Ticuu's use, I'm also buffing Ticuu's Catalyst. Causality Quiver now reads, perfectly drawn arrows that detonate Sacred Flames increase arrow damage. Striking targets unaffected by Sacred Flame instead refreshes Causality Arrow's duration. At 3 stacks, targets struck by Causality Arrows ignite instead of detonate. I might have gone a bit overboard with this change, but I see no reason why Ticuu's shouldn't be able to ignite targets on hit. It still requires a bit of setup, needing 3 precision hits back to back to back with your rhythm intact in order to cause the ignition. But I think really skilled players with Ticuu's are going to be able to pull this off more than you think, and will turn Ticuu's into a high skill, high reward bow that can easily outpace Tyranny of Heaven. I don't know, maybe I went too far with this bow, but I would love to see Ticuu's get some Solar 3.0 verbiage at some point in order to help it stand amongst legendary bows with incandescent. The next weapon on our list is the Borealis Sniper, which comes with the intrinsic perk The Fundamentals. Alternate weapon action changes this weapon's damage type, cycling between Void, Arc, and Solar. Grants this weapon temporarily increased damage when you apply or gain an elemental buff or debuff that matches this weapon's damage type. Borealis also comes with the column perk Ionic Return. Breaking a combatant's shield or the shield of a guardian using a super with the matched damage type refills the magazine from reserves and grants bonus damage rounds. Breaking a combatant's shield with a matched damage type Ionic Return round refreshes the perk. And for its catalyst, Borealis just adds reload. Recently, Bungie has changed the fundamentals and added a really nice damage buff to both Hardlight, Borealis, and Dead Messenger. And while I've seen Hardlight pop off on a lot of different builds, Borealis and Dead Messenger really haven't seen all that much use. I'll get to Dead Messenger in just a second, but in Borealis' case, it could really use just a little bit more love. With that in mind, the only change I'm going to give Borealis is a change to its catalyst. The new Borealis catalyst comes with a perk called Photonic Firefly, which reads, "Precision kills with this weapon cause an elemental debuff explosion." It's a super simple change, but I think a really effective one in making Borealis stand out. My logic revolves all around the fundamentals buff that it got this season. The increased weapon damage is really nothing to scoff at. So while Hardlight is an infinite ammo primary and needs help from a subclass in order to gain the fundamentals buff, I don't think Borealis should be the same. Special weapons, obviously, don't have infinite ammo. And so I think if you're going to use a special ammo version of the fundamentals, it should be able to self-proc its own elemental debuff. In Borealis' case, that should be Photonic Firefly, where Void precision kills spread Volatile, Solar precision kills spread Scorch, and Arc precision kills cause Blind. All three of these elemental debuffs will help self-proc the fundamentals, and give Borealis more of a chance to shine against Hardlight. It might be a bit overtuned, but again, when was the last time you have seen Borealis used anywhere? I think this small change in Borealis' catalyst is a perfect way to boost its use cases. I said I'd talk about it next, so let's talk about Dead Messenger, which is a grenade launcher with the Trinary Vision intrinsic perk. One-shot handheld grenade launcher. Projectiles release a fan of 3 energy waves on contact with the ground. Dead Messenger, instead of having its intrinsic be the fundamentals, has its column perk as the fundamentals. On top of that, Dead Messenger also has 2 other perks that are available on this weapon. One coming from its catalyst in Turnabout, and the other your choice between Demolitionist, Thresh, or Unrelenting. There's a lot going on with Dead Messenger, but unfortunately that doesn't mean that it's a good weapon. When I ran around and tested this, I was kind of underwhelmed with the amount of damage Dead Messenger was doing. That said, I know Dead Messenger has had to be tuned for multiple PvP related incidents, but I don't think that means it needs to be dead in PvE as well. And very similar to my take on Borealis, I think Dead Messenger being a special weapon means that it should be able to proc its own elemental debuffs. So with that in mind, I am adding the following to its intrinsic perk. Trinary Vision now reads, one-shot handheld grenade launcher. Projectiles release a fan of 3 energy waves on contact with the ground. Multi-kills cause your next shot to cause elemental debuff explosions on kill. Super simple and small change, but a change that I think Dead Messenger would really benefit from in the same way that Borealis would benefit from its change. I think the fundamentals buff has really boosted Hardlight's use cases, but I think Dead Messenger and Borealis just need a little bit more love in order to make them usable. The next exotic on our list is actually going to be a trio of exotics to round out our energy slot. All of these exotics suffer from the same issue, so let me jump into that first. The issue stems from Arc exotic weapons not being as versatile in build crafting as their Arc legendary version counterparts. For example, several solar exotics have gotten scorching applications added to them as the years have gone on, and all void weapons, exotics included, can get volatile rounds by simply getting a grenade kill. But when you're trying to build craft into an Arc primary exotic, your choices are kind of limited. Oftentimes, the best choice for an Arc build is just a legendary weapon with either Volt Shot or Jolting Feedback. And that's a shame because I really think there are some Arc exotic primaries that could absolutely use some 3.0 synergies tied into them. The 3 that I want to quickly look at today are Risk Runner, Symmetry, and Trespasser. All 3 of these exotics could absolutely benefit from having some sort of Arc 3.0 synergy added to them. So here are the changes I would make to each exotic. For Risk Runner, I would absolutely just slot in Jolting Feedback. Currently, there's only one legendary SMG in the game that has Jolting Feedback, and I think Risk Runner would be a perfect addition to that list. With its ammo regenning capabilities, Jolting Feedback feels like a no-brainer in order to boost Risk Runner in PvE. Next up is Symmetry, which has gotten a lot of love in the past couple of updates, but unfortunately still really isn't up to snuff. My change for Symmetry would be that Seeker kills grant Bolt Charge and can trigger Bolt Charge Lightning. A super simple change that helps Symmetry lean into a unique area that really not a whole lot of other exotics lean into. And with its Seekers generating Bolt Charge Lightning, you would no longer have to be behind a Storm's Keep barricade in order to drop lightning on your enemies. And for Trespasser, just a really easy change, I would just swap out its catalyst for Volt Shot. If you really wanted to go crazy, you could even give it a special version of Volt Shot that re-procs itself on Unrelenting kill, but that might be a bit too much. All 3 of these exotics could absolutely benefit from having some Arc 3.0 synergies in their kit. Not only would it help buff these weapons in PvE, but it would also vastly improve their build crafting potential. And last but certainly not least, we have a couple of heavy weapons that I would love to take a pass at. Starting with Worldline Zero, which is an arc sword and comes with the intrinsic perk Tesseract. Heavy attack. Use while sprinting with full energy to launch a heavy blink attack. Press again after the strike to blink a second time. For a column perk, Worldline Zero comes with the Tireless Blade. Sword ammo granted for every other powered sword kill. And for a catalyst, Worldline Zero comes with the Another Dimension perk. Reduces the activation time of Tesseract. Worldline Zero used to be the weapon for speedrunners in Destiny 2. Over the years, it's caught some nerfs in that department, and Eager Edge swords have really just replaced Worldline Zero outright. But I think this weapon has a ton of potential as an arc exotic sword, and so with that in mind, I am updating its intrinsic and its column perk. Starting with its intrinsic, Tesseract now reads, Heavy Attack. Use while sprinting with full energy to launch a heavy blink attack that triggers bolt charge strikes. Press again after the strike to blink a second time. In a very similar change to what I gave Symmetry, I think Worldline Zero should be one of the only weapons to be able to fully proc your bolt charge strike when you're not behind a Storm's Keep barricade. And to pair with this, we are changing Tireless Blade for a new perk that I am calling Tireless Storm. Sword ammo granted for every other powered sword kill. Light attacks and kills generate bolt charge. These two perk changes would transform Worldline Zero from the speedrunning exotic into the bolt charge sword exotic. And for clarification, the bolt charge trigger would only happen on Tesseract heavy attacks, and the light attacks would simply fuel your bolt charge capacity. I think this is a super simple change and one that I would love to see Worldline Zero receive sometime soon. Next up on our list is the Black Talon, which is a void sword and comes with the intrinsic perk Crow's Wings. Heavy attack. Fire a heavy projectile attack. Heavy attacks are stronger with full energy. For its column perk, Black Talon also comes with Tireless Blade, where sword ammo is granted for every other powered sword kill. And for its catalyst, Black Talon comes with Reversal. Shots blocked immediately after guarding increase the damage of Crow's Wings for a very short duration. I personally don't have the catalyst, but from what I've read and from what I've witnessed, Reversal is a really tough perk to get going. This catalyst is begging for an ease of use update as well as just an update to the perk in general, so similar to the ease of use update that Flash Counter received, I am updating the Reversal perk to read, Shots blocked after guarding increase the damage of Crow's Wings for a short duration and grants volatile rounds. This small change to Reversal really transforms Black Talon into a sword worth using. This change not only boosts the duration of which the increased damage of Crow's Wings is applied, but also grants your character volatile rounds. Not just Black Talon, which absolutely benefits from the volatile rounds, but all of your void weapons will now have volatile rounds after performing a successful reversal. I think this is a super simple change that gives great ease of use as well as just overall utility to Black Talon in general. The last weapon on our list is the Heir Apparent, which is a solar machine gun and comes with the intrinsic perk Heavy Slug Thrower. Aiming down sights spins up this weapon. This weapon can only be fired when fully spun up. In its column, Heir Apparent comes with the perk Armor of the Colossus. While at full health, spinning up this weapon protects you with an arc shield. And for a catalyst, Heir Apparent comes with the Legion's Bulwark perk. Increases the arc shield's durability and partially reloads the magazine if it is destroyed. I love the idea and the play loop of Heir Apparent, but I think it could use a little bit more love, particularly in the subclass department. So with that in mind, I'm going to add a small bit of wording to Heir Apparent's catalyst in order to both add some elemental synergy to it, as well as just making this weapon more desirable to use in general. So the new Legion's Bulwark perk should read, increases the arc shield's durability and partially reloads the magazine if it is destroyed. Shots apply small amounts of Scorch. Again, it's a super simple change, but I think Heir Apparent would really benefit from having some subclass 3.0 synergies. It really is small changes like this that can really help boost exotics into people's loadouts, and scorching rounds on hit would really help out Heir Apparent in a lot of PvE activities, as I really don't see this gun used all that often, which I think is a shame because I think the gun is really fun to use. With Heir Apparent out of the way, that concludes my list for this video. But Briggs, you might be wondering, there are so many exotic weapons that you've missed. What about Deterministic Chaos or Truth? I'll level with you guys. Originally, I was going to have those weapons on this list. However, I decided instead to slot them into the next video I'm going to be doing. And to give you a little teaser, it may or may not have something to do with exotic catalysts. But if you think I've missed any exotics on this list, please put it down in the comments below, as I really do read over those at least once a day. But thanks again for watching, guys, and thanks again for the clanmates who helped me put together this list. I really could not have done this video without either of your help. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me. I gotta go work on that next video. I will see you guys there.